Well, hi everybody, I'm Louis Amistoy with HS Game Time Live, and now joined by Eric Paul Johnson to talk about the Mountain Pass League, and basically a new league with the configuration in it, kind of the Hemet Unified School District League. But let's talk about this league. What's new and exciting?
I mean, one of the first things, like you said, the new makeup of the school is adding in Hemet and West Valley, plus also the shrinking of the league down to 6 teams, which makes the playoff battle a little bit more tougher, as only 3 teams will get automatic berths instead of 4 last year. But a league right now that looks very balanced, you know, from top to bottom, where you could see any one of these teams make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's one of those leagues where you look at it and say, wow, this is just so wide open that it makes it kind of an interesting league too.
Which, especially in years past, with Citrus Hill dominating pretty much the past 3 years.
Right.
Making it wide open this year.
Now, you and I are both lovers of history, and I look at this league, and you know, Hemet and San Jacinto back in a league together, the first time since the 1960s. Beaumont also in that mix as well, and then you throw in Tahawkwitz and West Valley, 2 Hemet Unified School District schools. West Valley and San Jacinto used to be league rivals, but have been out for a while. So there's a lot of familiar faces with this as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think from what I've seen, you know, a lot of coaches in that area, different schools, they all know each other. You've had a few, you know, coaching changes over at Beaumont. Banning's former coach is now an assistant over there.
Right.
So a lot of familiarity within this league, despite new schools coming
We have
in.
2 new coaches too at Hemet and Citrus Hill.
Right. We have Matt Georgia, former Hemet quarterback, coming in, taking over his alma mater, trying to maybe bring them back to, you know, when they were, you know, a perennial playoff team. And then Eric Zomald, a very familiar name for people who were around maybe a couple decades ago, was one of the stars of those Canyon Springs teams that won CIF titles. He's been an assistant coach at Citrus Hill since it's opened, and he's definitely a guy who should be able to step in there and keep what Coach Doug Du Bois had done. And, you know, we expect them not to fall off, but actually, you know, maintain their strength over the years.
Let's go through the league for a minute here now. Let's talk about Beaumont. People are saying a lot of good things about Beaumont right now. They've had, basically since Gary Harvey retired as a coach, they've had some ups and downs, a lot of downs basically since then. But people feel pretty good about them right now. Yeah,
they're the team in the league that's had the longest playoff drought, the 2004 being the last time that they you know, made the playoffs. But last year, they were one of 4 teams that finished in that 4th place tie and we're out in the mix, but they return a lot of starters, and you start looking at you know, Angel Wilson at running back is going to be a key person for them. Devin Hale Simpson, Ryan Preciado, a very good mix. You know, they're probably one of the teams that will return the most starters, and they should actually be right in that mix for, you know, a playoff spot. And if they can overachieve, could even maybe pull off an upset and get into that, you know, mix for a league title.
Citrus Hill last year ranked #1 in their division, lost in the first round to Summit. You know, what is the expectation with Citrus Hill? A lot of unknowns.
Yeah, this could be a rebuilding year for this team. They started a lot of seniors. We know last year that offense relied heavily on Deontay Cooper. He's now, you know, moved on to Washington. You know, it's going to be interesting. You know, they're a team that gets a lot of transfers in. They get a lot of new players, so it could be a reloading year for them. But 20-game winning streak in the Mountain Pass League heading into this year, that's going to be hard for them to continue that role. They do have a couple good players. Look for Davian Payne to step in at running back and be that you know, focal guy on offense.
Okay, let's talk about Hemet now with Matt Georgia. In his first season, Hemet coming off was probably one of the worst seasons they've had in their school history. 2 of the worst defeats in school history during that season led to the coaching change.
Yeah, you know, Hemet's going to be one of those schools. You know, I think they're going to be better than they were last year, but still, you know, it's going to be a challenge in those first couple of years for Coach Georgia. They do return Brent Duffy at quarterback, and you know, they should be okay on defense. You know, some of the top players back there being Luke Tabor and Dylan Detweiler. You know, should be key guys for them to help them out. But you know, offensively, there could be some growing pains in there.
Now, San Jacinto, led by Bill Powell, one of the deans of our coaches, one of the most successful coaches in the area, and the most successful coach at San Jacinto, with a 92-49-1 record, brings back a pretty good team as well, and they have not missed the playoffs at all since he's been there. So,
the big question for them is who replaces Nigel Barksdale, who is, you know, Coach Powell said accounted for over 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. That's going to be the big, you know, question mark for them. But Casey Clark steps into that that position, he should be good. But where they're really strong And you always see with San Jacinto is on the lines. They
Right.
have a huge line. Rogelio Moreno, 300-pounder. William Sweezy, 295 pounds on the offensive line. But defensively is where Coach Powell expects them to be a lot better. Last year they had trouble stopping offenses. This year, David Irving, completely healthy, 6'6", 230, headed to Iowa State on the line. And as Coach Powell has been able to do in recent years, pulling great athletes from other programs onto
Right.
the field. We'll see Anthony Collins, a star basketball player, step in and be the other defensive end
Right.
for that team.
All right, now to Hakowitz with Mike Schroeder in his second season. I think they surprised a lot of people with a 4-6 record. They had Citrus Hill on the ropes at the end of the season last year, just missed the playoffs. I've seen a lot of this team during the summer passing league and very impressive athletically. Can they make it to the playoffs?
Yeah, I think they're definitely in that mix. Whether are they a title contender yet? Maybe still a little too early for them, but you know they're going to be making a lot of personnel changes. Anthony Crook, who's been the quarterback for that team since the school opened, will now be moving to running back, maybe a more natural fit for him. Quarterback spot is up for grabs. Coach Schroeder believes defensively they're going to be solid again like they were last year,
Right.
a team that really played well the second half of the season. Offensively, he says scoring points may still be a problem. That's
Right.
going to be the big key for them.
And of course, Coach Schroeder is good friends with Jason Thornburg at West Valley. This team was 6-5 last year, went to the playoffs, lost to Chafee. But I've seen them twice during the summer. You saw them at the Paloma Valley tournament. Very impressive athletically.
Yeah, they're definitely, I think, maybe the team that, has been talked about most within the league of just their athleticism, their speed. It's going to be tough for people to match up with. The first player to really talk about right now is sophomore linebacker and running back Damian Backus. Just a fantastic athlete. Could be the next great, string of linebackers we have in our area. And then on the offensive side of the ball, two great wide receivers in Shelton Roberts and Charles Carlisle.
So looking at this league, top to bottom, give me your picks on this one.
Right now I think West Valley enters right now as the favorite to win this league. I think right now they have what it takes on both offense and defense to take that top spot and dethrone Citrus Hill. I like San Jacinto right now in that number 2 spot. I think they have the size, and if they can put together, the defensive side of the ball, I still think they're going to be able to score points. Beaumont is a team that a lot of people are talking up because of how many people they have back. Their roster is still, very short on numbers, but I think they have enough experience where they can maybe take that 3rd spot. Citrus Hill's the big wild card right now, depending on what they can put together. And then Tockwitz is going to be in that mix. And, I think Hemet right now, they're still maybe a year or two away from moving up that ladder. So, it's one of those ones where, a deep league where if anyone can just win 2 or 3 games in a row could definitely make it to the playoffs.
All right, very good. Thanks for Eric Paul Johnson. Coverage of the Mountain Pass League will continue all year long here on P.com and HS Game Time. Look forward to talking more about this league as we progress through the season. For Eric Paul Johnson, I'm Louis Amestoy for HS Game Time Live.